This is Plan B, Episode 12, for June 25th, 2013. And welcome to Plan B, Jupiter Broadcasting's weekly talk show contemplating the future and present of Bitcoin with insights for the novice, shop talk for the expert, and opinionated discussion for the interested observer of Bitcoin and related technologies. My name is Chris, and joining me every single week is my co-host, Drew. Hey, Drew.
Hey, hey, hey.
Hey, hey, hey. So we got a big show this week. Huge show this week, Drew. Episode
Really?
12. Oh, I didn't even know it was going to happen, but Bitcoin, a lot of things underneath the surface are in a lot of turmoil this week, Drew.
I know. we might have a nice, easy week, Hey, not too much going on here. A little shorter show, but there's still a lot of crazy stuff going on.
I want to say thanks to our live chat who's joined us on this Tuesday afternoon over at jblive.tv. The price is at 102 right now as we record, and I've been riding the Bitcoin roller coaster. I bought yesterday at 99. And by the end of the day, when I was going to bed, the price had gotten up to 107. And I thought, yes, I made a great buy.
Victory.
Now, today, as we're recording the show, it's down to 101. And we got a few stories in here that, honestly, once we get through this batch of stories, my question probably will be, why isn't it lower? It's kind of a testament to Bitcoin that it's as high as it is after we get through the news this week. It's been a kind of a crazy week. But as has become tradition on this show, we should start with the feedback. And our first one, I'll start with, I guess, our first one last. I know I got them out of order, but it doesn't really matter, I suppose. Joey sent us a text message, and he said, this is quite a lengthy text message. I think that Bitcoin crashes are a good thing. It weeds out non-believers and makes the price cheaper for hoarders. This creates a scarcity and drives value up. Bitcoin needs more hoarders and less speculators.
Not much to add to that, but I agree.
You do agree. See, now
it's not really a good thing. Like I don't like that word. Like it's good that something loses a significant amount of value, and it's good that a lot of people lose, some of their value in this thing. But
I do agree we're shaking out the weaklings. I agree with that. But I also think we need to keep in perspective that right now we are operating at a point where we're allowing Mt. Gox to arbitrarily, essentially, dictate a price, even though it's being done by the users of the exchange. And this exchange doesn't even have a way to cash out from it right now. So if we do go into a slide, it could be the kind of slide that is a lot worse because of the very tenuous situation. I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing. Then again, maybe because people can't get their money out, they're just going to buy up Bitcoins and they're going to spend it on Bitcoin. You never know. It could have that effect too. I do agree with the scarcity drives up the value, and that's a big reason why the price is where it's at right now is because of the scarcity factor, even though there are so many issues with Gox and the other exchanges. The only problem I have with this philosophy is I think it scares away business. See what I'm saying?
But because the price is changing so fluidly?
Yeah, like if you're a merchant and you see the prices just going up and down like this, or if you're CNBC and you're writing or doing a piece about
it crashed again.
The crazy Bitcoin ride continues, ladies and gentlemen. You can hear him saying that.
Oh,
so
yeah, definitely.
It's not necessarily always a good thing, but I think what Joey's helping us realize is not always necessarily a whole-on bad thing either. Here's a return writer. I get to butcher his name for a second time. Piotr writes in. He says, "Hello, I messaged in last week about Bitcoin eruptors. I took a chance and ordered 6 from a guy on Bitcoin Talk in Holland. After checking his rep, by the way. I just got them. Wow, we got them already. I just got them installed on Ubuntu using BFG Miner. These guys run from the panels USB, so the ones you got to plug in with long wires into USB slots. Oh, okay. Yeah, he's got like little extenders. Usually there's not enough power to power up the stuff on there. These guys just go full blast. I'm moving them out of there and onto a modified powered USB hub with some fans. Wow.
You'd have put some fans on some little USB devices.
But check this out. He says, goodbye to my 2 6990s that were running at 950 watts. And hello, you gorgeous little things that hardly use 3 watts. Oh. How about that? Went from 950 watts to 3 watts. And then he included some images, too. He says he's using BFG Miner and P2P Pool. That's pretty slick. All right, I'm going to open these up. Let's see what he got. So he said, so now he's going to work on a modified USB hub. Oh, wow. He's getting he's peaking at 2.5 gigahashes with these things.
That is pretty sweet, man.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Let's see. Now he says he includes another screenshot here. Let's take a look. That is actually, I mean, if you figure you went from, I mean, each pole's 3 watts. So, yeah, I can see.
Weren't we talking about not that long ago about, how like Bitcoin is destroying the environment by destroying, like wasting a bunch of electricity. And here we go, all these efficiency measures, like with these ASIC devices that are using tiny bit of electricity. And what external institution imposed these rules that people would have to create devices that have these, these better features? I don't think any did.
Right. No, it was just it was a matter of market economics.
Oh, yeah.
Because the cheaper it is to run, the more profit you make.
Oh, what?
I know, it's crazy. It's crazy how that happens. Well, these look really cool. He's running them naked. He got them naked, and they got really bright green LEDs on them. They look really cool.
Yeah, they do. They're pretty sweet.
Well, Piotr, thanks for sending that in. That is super slick. And 3 watts is a USB standard USB port. If you got a good motherboard, should be 5 volts, right? Or 5 watts. I'm getting all mixed up now. But he said the first mine payout of BTC on these things is coming your way soon. Why? Because we're awesome. Wow. Well, thanks, man. That's really cool. And then he's included too. We'll have these screenshots if you go over to the show notes and you want to check out this hardware to see what it looks like. He's included some pictures of his modified hub where he had to give it more room so they could all fit in there.
Wow.
That's awesome though. So you guys, if you audio listeners want to check these out, you can find a link to his email. In his email, he's got pictures of all this stuff. That is so cool. I like getting pictures of people's hardware, and that makes me want to get out there and do it.
Oh yeah.
All right. Our last email of the day. Wait, did I open up? Did you put Joey's email in here twice? Or did I just open it up?
No.
Damn it, Drew, you're ruining everything. I kid, I just opened it twice.
Oh, wait.
Lee writes in, and he says, "Hi, Chris. Hi, and Drew, of course. I was wondering if, in your vast array of contexts, you had information on the actual delivery time of the Butterfly Labs miners. I asked because I recently lost my job, and I was hoping to use some of the money I got to mine for Bitcoins to generate an equivalent amount of money to my monthly wage." Boy, wouldn't we all?
That's a ballsy move.
Yeah, well, we're desperate. I've done my calculations, and I would need 20 gigahashes of mining power at current difficulty levels. I know this won't always last, but I also plan to increase the gigahash rate as and when necessary to maintain the level I need. 20 gigahashes cost at 1,130 from Butterfly Labs for the device. So he kind of does the math here. He basically says he thinks he can get about $36 a day in 30 days. He says, my only concern is that a stated delivery potentially taking up to 2 months, as this is the last wage and with oh boy. He says he's going on his last paycheck. I've considered trading Bitcoins, but it wouldn't make enough to support me and my family. Also, I wanted to ask you what your thought was on Bitcoins as a stimulus package if more shops started accepting them. The economy isn't great, and I'm in the UK. I read about discussions at the Bank of England about stimulus packages being rejected for one reason or another. I'd like to think that if those mining Bitcoins were able to spend some of them locally, we wouldn't need the government to do the big stimulus, as we as society would become the stimulus package and help improve the economy ourselves. Oh, I don't think Bitcoin has quite the footprint to do that yet. But, boy, Lee, you're going to be waiting. I ordered their 30 gigahash unit back at the beginning of 2013, and I'm still waiting.
Did they tell you like what order you're in? No. At least imply like Gox would, back in the day?
No, just saying processing is all it says in the order status. Now, I have seen more and more posts online of people getting their fives.
There seems to be shipping out like a higher degree, at least, greater consistency. I don't know. It freaks me out. Like I was when I first discovered like ASICs were coming out and all that, I went to Butterfly Labs and looked at everything, and I was like, oh, this is great. And it's like, add a cart, but then, you realize that you have to wait forever. You don't know when that forever is going to be. You don't know how many people are already in front of you. So that's the scary part, because if you don't know, then you're talking about a lot of dollars lost in the meantime.
The other thing is they're not the only ASIC game in town. You got Avalon and others, and you got those USB eruptors. The difficulty rate's going to be going up at a rate that we've never seen before, probably.
It's going to be crazy.
Yeah.
I'm sure. It's going to be crazy.
And first of all, he in his math here, I don't see his calculus for power consumption, and I don't know what his power situation is. And when you consider the fact that the difficulty rate's going up, and that the fact that the Bitcoin price, he's also kind of banking that the cost of Bitcoins, he's saying he figured them to be around 109, which would give him about $2,700 in a 48-day period.
That's all right.
Well, the price is at 101 right now. And there's nothing to say it's going to go up to 109 again. Now, I certainly hope so. That's why I bought at 99, obviously. And the scarcity helps with that. And I wonder as the difficulty rate goes up, if we might have a higher period of scarcity for a little while. I guess not, because it's only going to go up as long as new coins are coming out. But oh man, Lee, I would say you got to reconsider this. You're gonna first of all, if you're gonna make money off Bitcoin right now, you're probably gonna make more money off of selling, because there's a lot of arbitrage between exchanges with the current state of exchanges. You can buy on, say, Camp BX for $98 right now, and you can sell on Gox for 101. And sometimes that's the difference is much greater than that, and that's what a lot of Bitcoin traders are doing.
It's an interesting strategy, but it's kind of a pain. It's got to be a pain.
Yeah, and in order to make money on that, you got to figure what your fees are, and then you also got to probably have a significant enough volume to make it worth it. So, but you can always start small. That is one thing, is you don't have to even trade in full Bitcoins. You can start small and sort of build up a little trading pool. I have kind of been in where Lee's mind is where it's like, maybe, my financial situation is really bad, and maybe Bitcoin can be the salvation to this, but it's just too new still.
Yeah, I wouldn't go all out, dropping that much money on that. I mean, because I don't know, it's too risky.
I think the best way to make Bitcoins for cheap right now is to offer a service in Bitcoin.
Yep.
If it's contracting, if it's consulting, if it's whatever, if it's goods, services, if it's, being the local Thai food delivery guy and just exchanging Bitcoins and, just doing it all by hand. That's where your money right now, I think, is in making Bitcoin, because then, you can make for whatever that cost is, and then just sit on it and hope the value goes up. I don't know, Drew. But look, if you'd like to give us some feedback and tell us what you think about what these folks wrote in, or if you'd like to ask us a question or put something on our radar, you can email this show, planb@jupiterbroadcasting.com, or hit the contact link at the top of the Jupiter Broadcasting website, or even better, call us 1-352-587-5262, or send us a text like Joey did, 1-352-587-5262. That's 1-352-58-PLAN-B. And we'll we haven't gotten a voicemail in
a couple weeks.
Gosh, Drew. Come on, folks. Jeez. We have gotten, though, and I want to say thank you to everybody, is we've gotten a steady trickle of, not huge donations, but like micro transactions of people saying, thanks for the show. I think we're almost up to to maybe 2 Bitcoins total now.
Oh,
pretty nice. So, it's a great way for people to say thanks, and it's especially appreciated right now because we're upgrading both the audio and video hardware in the Jupiter Broadcasting studio, and thousands of dollars. I'm sitting here thinking, man, I wish I could pay for some of this equipment in Bitcoin, and I've actually identified a few of the things for the studio that I think I can buy in Bitcoin. So your Bitcoin, I'm going to try to actually buy stuff for the studio with Bitcoin, because for me, it seems like the best way, like if we receive donations,
to keep it moving, right?
Yeah, and to get it back out there, to kind of get it back out in the Bitcoin economy, so the show kind of becomes a promoter of Bitcoin in that sense. But also, and this is completely selfish, is I don't know for sure, but I think the tax implications are different if I'm not taking it as profit. Because I'm never cashing them in, right? I'm never cashing them in. You're
just exchanging it,
right?
So you don't have to pay taxes on the.
I don't know, but that's how I'm treating it. So that's kind of my plan for the Bitcoin donation. So if folks out there want to help out the show and the other shows as well, there are QR codes and links embedded in the show notes. You go over to jupiterbroadcasting.com and you can contribute to the show, and it helps us go on. Drew, I'm going to call up our first guest. Hi, Donncha. Welcome to the show.
How's it going?
Very good. So, we called you up because you had a very interesting blog over at Donncha. Am I saying that right? Donncha?
Yeah, Donncha. Yep.
.is, DONNCHA.is. And you wrote about some discoveries you made while sort of poking at Coinbase. And Coinbase is a sort of an exchange, or I don't know if that's the right term, but they're an online wallet that lets you buy Bitcoins that Drew and I talk about all the time. And you kind of found a few soft spots over on Coinbase, right?
Yeah, I did. I found 4 different distinct vulnerabilities. And luckily for them, they run a white hat program where they'll pay Bitcoin bounties for anyone that reports security vulnerabilities to them that they can patch before they're disclosed.
So how did that work? Did you now? Because here's here's what stood out to me is a lot of times when somebody out there finds a vulnerability in an exchange or an online Bitcoin wallet, they take advantage of it by exploiting that to rob people, to grab usernames and passwords. Did the Coinbase's bounty program, did that sort of nudge you in the right direction, or were you already kind of going to go down the white path regardless of any bounty program? What was sort of your motivation there? Why not make more money, I guess is my question.
Like I definitely would have disclosed them to it anyways, but the only reason I started really kind of exploring Coinbase is because a friend referred me to their bounty program, and like anyway I can get some Bitcoins, as most of your listeners feel.
It's a good way to make some Bitcoins. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So and it's something I enjoy doing, so I just started looking around, and like very quickly within within maybe 20 minutes I found the first vulnerability and just fired them off an email. Within about an hour they had said they found it and they were going to fix it and deploy it within a couple of hours, and then I got my first 5 Bitcoins. So that was extra motivation to kind of keep looking, see what else was on their side.
Oh, I see. So you found that first one, and then once you got the Bitcoins there, you're like, all right, let's see what else is there. And so they were pretty cool about it sounds like.
Yeah, no, they were really good in that. Their team was very quick to fix it. So it was just a cross-site scripting vulnerability.
Sure.
That could potentially allow someone to take over an account by directing a logged-in user to a malicious page. You could withdraw their Bitcoins over by using JavaScript. Sorry, go on.
Are there other exchanges or like any other like Bitcoin service providers that have a white or like a bounty program like this that you know of?
I've had a look around, and so far it just seems to be Coinbase that are running a whiteout program like this. And then there's lots of other sites like Google and Facebook that have pretty established bounty programs.
Did you get any contact from Coinbase or any sort of communications that said, thanks for the help, but we kind of wish you hadn't publicized this?
No, they're very helpful. They just asked for some time to patch one or two of the issues that were going to take a while longer because it involved like deploying new versions of their mobile app. So I was happy to help them out with that, and they're happy enough to disclose it, and I think it shows that they do care about security. I'd be more worried if there's somebody trying to like hush it under the blanket, hush it under the carpet. That it's just good that they're happy enough to get disclosed and get them patched and get pay out.
Yeah, I agree, and I applaud you for not only so essentially by finding this cross-site scripting vulnerability, you found a way to get access to people's accounts if you could get them on a landing page. And that would have been a great way to make money. And instead you went to them and talked about this. And I think this is sort of a trend that would be massively beneficial to the Bitcoin community because so many people out there are exploiting this stuff for their own benefit. But I think part of the secret sauce here is it sounds like Coinbase was really cool about not only just having this bounty program, but how they kind of worked with you. And like in total, you got paid out like 11 Bitcoins, right?
I got 16 Bitcoins in total for so it's when you're a student and you're just procrastinating from studying for exams, 16 Bitcoins isn't too bad.
No, that's awesome. So what are you going to do with the Bitcoins now that you've earned them? Are you going to cash them out and buy yourself something nice? Or are you going to hold on to them and see if they accrue value? Or
yeah, I'm just going to hold on to them for now. I'm a bit of a Bitcoin believer now, and when it came for free or for very little work, I don't feel too much at risk.
Yeah.
Rather than if I was investing a lot of my own fiat into it. So I'm just going to hold on from now, and it gets me like kind of foot on the Bitcoin market and gets me keep me interested in it.
Yeah. Well, Donncha, thanks for coming on, and the write-up over at Donncha.is is fantastic. We'll have a link to that in the show notes, and keep us posted on your future endeavors if you find other sites out there that have issues like this, and if you ever need help getting the word out about something, just let us know, okay?
Well, thank you very much, Chris and Drew. Thank you.
All right, man. Thanks for joining us. You're in Ireland, right?
Yeah, I'm just in Dublin.
Dublin, yeah. It's a little after 10 or 11 there.
Just a little after 10.
Very good.
But I'm happy enough to do any kind of security reviews of sites for Bitcoin. I'm just trying, provide some services for Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Try and get more into it.
Yeah, very good. Well, we'll be watching. I'm following you on Twitter too, so I'll keep tabs on what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you very much.
All right, man. Have a great rest of your day or evening. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
There you go, Drew. I just wanted to kind of cover that because I thought, how great was it that he could have gotten access to people's Coinbase accounts, and
he can just start transferring money from people's bank accounts into their thing there.
Yeah, I as somebody who just bought on Coinbase yesterday, I want to say I appreciate how Coinbase handled this whole thing, and it encourages me to recommend them on our show.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because I feel like that is completely the appropriate way to handle that. And so, you know, from the talks that they had at the Bitcoin 2013, I think it was like an interview. I forget what, you know, we got insights into how they're trying to comply with the law from the financial regulation standpoint. And now we kind of have insights on how they manage the security standpoint of things, because Coinbase is not only a way to buy and sell Bitcoins, but they also offer merchant tools and Bitcoin wallet services. So, you know, security is paramount.
Yep.
Very good. Very, very good. All right, Drew, while we're talking about security, there was a DDoS attack against the Bitcoin network that nobody really knew about this week. In fact, we only really found out about it because some of the, well, there's now actually a new version of the Bitcoin QT wallet, but also members of the core Bitcoin development team came out. CoinDesk was one of the first sites to run this story. They got an email from Jeff Garzik. He's currently dealing with an ongoing network-wide event, he said in an email to CoinDesk. Last Friday, they announced they're going to be releasing the upcoming 0.8.3 release of the reference implementation. This was going to fix a denial-of-service attack that affected some network nodes, but then they didn't give any details on that. When pushed and asked, you know, said, is this a 51% attack? What's going on? He said, no, 51% attacks are extremely costly and difficult to mount. And they're the lowest worry on my list. Operationally, network attacks are far cheaper. Any smart attacker is going to go after the nodes. And he kind of hinted that it wasn't miners that were being attacked, but it was the nodes on the network who are just processing transactions but not doing any mining, not taking any fees. Essentially, they're just nodes offering their services to the benefit of the network. Well, now that the actual release has been out and the Bitcoin QT code is open source, it's up on GitHub, I went and had a look, and it looks like there was a messaging mechanism that would check for a new message every 10 seconds, or it was every 15 seconds, I can't remember. And on these nodes that weren't actually mining, on those nodes that had low memory in the system, it would exhaust all of the memory and crash them. And then it was causing, these crashes were causing delays in confirmations throughout the network. So, and I was seeing some threads. where people are saying, hey, I haven't had a confirmation in like X amount of time. This is ridiculous. What's going on? And I thought, you know, somebody just didn't put a fee in there or something, right?
Right.
But maybe this is what was going on. I guess it's been going on for the last few days, and they kind of quickly worked on it. Gavin, you know, of course, lead Bitcoin developer, he's getting ready to go on a trip, and so he was banging this code out at sort of the last minute to sort of get this fixed because it was being actively exploited, and kind of, in my mind, speaks to the resiliency of the Bitcoin network that it was apparently under a DDoS attack, and most of us didn't even notice.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, I had no idea until just today.
No, so that's why the Bitcoin QT wallet and Bitcoin D versions 0.83 have been released. They solved this problem. Probably a good idea to update. And what's interesting, too, is the core development team has already worked with certain nodes that were having the issue and already gotten them to upgrade. Like, they kind of like... I don't know.
Proactive about reaching out to these guys.
Yeah, like there was a certain group that they're like, no, we got to ninja upgrade you right now because you're a big part of the problem. So yeah, I think it's probably just worth noting. If folks need to do some upgrades, you can go find links to that in the show notes. And we have a couple of stories that go together this week, Drew.
They're not very good, are they?
No. So let's start with. Let's start with the good guys over at BitSpend. Now, I've never used BitSpend, but we've had a couple of emails from folks that said, hey, have you heard of BitSpend? They're the service that lets you buy essentially anything with Bitcoins. They're sort of like a Bitcoin buy proxy. Their slogan is, you know, no price is too high or low. Well, BitSpend has been sort of cut off at the knees. Chase Bank sent them a note saying your account will be reviewed to decide whether the source of deposits is legitimate, and we'll decide within 30 days if we will be returning any or all of your money. They've shut down all financial services to BitSpend, and what's crazy is then I guess BitSpend has a smaller bank they work with too. They then got a notice from that bank that they'd be shutting down all financial services with BitSpend.
There must be a memo going around to all these banks or something, right?
Very
if
interesting,
you're doing anything
right?
with Bitcoin, yeah, you know.
Right.
Just like with the, you know, what they're all doing with WikiLeaks and like PayPal and MasterCard.
Very much so.
Preventing everything. It seems like there might be some strong arming by the banking industry in the background, starting to recognize a potential threat to their little monopoly on the system.
It seems like it. I mean, you know, what's funny is, so when DHS got involved and cut off Dwolla from Gox, I think our title was like, then they fight you or something like that, right?
Yep.
And we got a little crap in some of the forums and in the Bitcoin subreddit for being reactionary and saying, oh, these guys are freaking out and saying that, that the sky is falling. That's not what we were saying, but I think our point is that was sort of the first shot.
Yeah, prepare for battle.
Exactly. And I think
they're not, they're coming, there's going to be a lot of this stuff like continuously through the future.
And now it's round 2. Now, so this was just posted in the Bitcoin subreddit. I haven't seen stories with this, so I haven't seen confirmed from multiple sources. This could be complete crap. But let's just read this. Citibank would no longer process any transfers to Mt. Gox due to an association with Liberty Reserve. This is from Andonia on the Bitcoin subreddit. He says, I just had an interesting call from a New Zealand bank, Kiwi Bank. They were calling to let me know that international wire template I had set up for transferring his money into Gox would be canceled. Citibank processes all of Kiwi Bank's international wire transfers, and it was under the instruction that all transfers to Gox be ceased. The reason given was due to Mt. Gox's association with Liberty Reserve, who are undergoing investigations surrounding drug trafficking finances. This was as much info as the woman calling could give me. I'm not sure whether Citibank processes other New Zealand bank wire transfers. Also, certainly not my preferred funding method anymore. So, according to this, Citibank is saying we're not going to do international wire transfers into Gox. Because they cite, what I love is they cite money laundering for drugs.
Yeah, an association with groups that are identified as possibly having conducted money laundering, just being associated with them.
Meanwhile, the executives of HSBC go free, right?
I thought Bitcoin was all for drugs and all for money laundering. Everybody else is legitimate, right? Because they're being regulated, and they have all these guys that are working these millions of dollars and these hundreds of pages of documentation that sets these rules for how these companies have to operate, how these banks have to operate. I thought they were all regulated and all protected like that.
Here we go. So it's on record. This is on record. Now, they got like almost a $2 billion fine for this, HSBC. That was their slap on the wrist. But they were responsible. Here we go. Okay, they paid $160 million as a probe fee for, are you ready for this? They were responsible for transferring 619, no, that's how much they paid. No, where is it? 680.
Yeah, for wire transfers, I think, right?
Yeah, what was the number? I'm trying to find the number in this article. It was like $680 billion in drug money they transferred.
I'm pretty sure that's almost right. And a couple other billion in cash. So they're yeah.
HSBC included the inability to properly monitor $15 billion in bulk cash transactions between mid-2006 and 2009. They cited inadequate staffing as the cause of that. HSBC ignored risks doing business within countries such as Mexico, and they were found for dealing with banks directly tied to the Mexican drug cartels. Amazing. I mean, this is amazing. Between 2007 and 2008, HSBC's Mexican operations moved $7 billion into the bank's U.S. operations. So they moved from Mexico $7 billion of that drug money into the HSBC U.S. operations. And so, when you're moving around that kind of money, I mean, okay, so here's the ironic thing, Drew, is them shutting down these different ways to fund Gox shows us that they are capable of tracking even the most smallest dollar amount. Because we were talking $15 billion they supposedly couldn't track, but yet they can track probably a few million. That's such bullshit.
Yeah.
It's obviously they're going after Bitcoin. It's not about
and they're shutting them down for being associated with Liberty Reserve, right? Because it was like a funding mechanism. So this bank who is doing hundreds and billions of dollars in transactions that are could be money laundering. What have they been shut down? Have all their funds been seized?
Yeah, here we go. So the grand totals, it was $680 billion in cartel money, and then they also failed to monitor $9.4 billion in cash transactions between all the different Mexico bank operations. Amazing, and they ended up only paying $1.9 billion in fees back in December of 2012.
And I'm sure that went to a great cause.
Yeah, and then on top of all of this, which is just like when is Gox going to get a break? Talk about getting Gox blocked. Statement regarding temporary hiatus on U.S. dollar withdrawals. This is actually from the official Gox blog. I will give them props where props is due. At least they're actually communicating now. That's a step up, right?
Pat on the back.
The wording here is really strange. Over the past few weeks, Mt. Gox has experienced rising volumes of deposit and withdrawals from established and upcoming markets interested in Bitcoin. This increased volume has made it difficult for our bank to process the transactions smoothly within a timely manner and has created unnecessary delays for our global customers. This is especially true for those in the United States who are requesting wire transfer withdrawals from their accounts. This is such crap.
Yeah, I don't buy it.
No, Gox volume is at a 6-month low. Okay? They are getting shut down. They're getting shut down. That's what's going on here. And maybe they have to, maybe they're, so they mentioned in some sort of side statement, they're now manually processing transactions, whatever that means.
Oh.
And that's why they shut down the US transaction, because that's like, you know, the majority of their transactions. So they shut down their busiest avenue for transactions just so that way they can manually process the other country's transactions. And the way this piece is kind of written is it's kind of written like a, hey y'all, Mt. Gox is just so popular that we're suffering from our own success and we just got to get things under control.
That's what they're trying to present. You know, has experienced rising volumes of deposits and withdrawals. I'm sure that's the only reason.
It's such crap. With such
just
crap.
Demand.
They say we apologize for any inconveniences this caused our U.S. customers in the meantime and look forward to resuming withdrawal services as well as debuting a dramatically improved trading engine, which will be launching very soon. How can they even give us any kind of a time estimation to resolve this problem? And second of all, isn't Gox's bank, I don't remember the name of it now, but isn't it like one of the largest banks in Japan? Like, how can these people not be able to handle? There's no way Gox is their largest customer.
Oh yeah, definitely. No, it doesn't. It seems like they're trying to weasel away and find different means for like pay mechanisms, and they're trying to. I don't know. Something must be going on with the banks that they utilize. That they might be doing similar things to what we've seen in just the articles previous, where they're kind of some funny businesses going on with these banks that are associating with these Bitcoin service providers and exchanges.
Yeah, and we talked last week with the guys that were doing the distributed Bitcoin exchange.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a peer-to-peer exchange, but it sounds like an interesting solution. We are still, I know maybe I'm just being super impatient here, but we are not seeing a peer-to-peer solution to replace Gox, and Gox is like. My perception of Gox, and hopefully I'm way wrong on this, but my perception of Gox is it is a zombie. It is a zombie walk-in, and people are treating it like it's what's that movie where the guys get the dead guy and they go party at the beach?
Weekend at Bernie's?
Yeah, it's Bernie. Mt. Gox, we're all hanging out with Bernie, acting like Bernie's alive, taking him out to dinner, having girls over,
Put the sunglasses on.
We're letting it set our price. We're all going by the Gox price still. Meanwhile, it's dead man walking. I mean, first of all, the DHS wants the CEO. Now, if they're going to get him, I don't know. But probably. We got a pretty good relationship there when it comes to that stuff with Japan.
Oh, yeah.
So, it's time to talk about other alternatives to Gox, I say. What do you say, Drew?
I agree. But there was a thing that I got an email from
kind of fits in with all of this, doesn't it?
It does, yeah, it does exactly. So I got an email on the mailing list for Bitcoin Commodities, or like where you can buy like a bunch of precious metals and stuff with Bitcoins.
Oh, nice.
The dude's based over in Europe, and I have purchased stuff from them in the past. If it's made illegal to possess silver, then no, I did not make that order.
Right?
But
no, especially not recorded in a podcast.
Illegal for me to own a piece of metal, then I didn't do this and I didn't say this, and we
live in really a crazy world when of course it's illegal for you to own a plant that can grow in the ground, so it makes sense it could be illegal to own metal, I suppose.
Yeah, anything goes. So this email said that so Bitcoin Commodities was pricing their cart and basically all their goods on the Mt. Gox price.
Right.
But after the whole deal with Gox, disabling your ability to deposit or withdraw through like wire transfers and all that. They switched the mechanism by which they measure or determine the price of Bitcoin. And it has a lot of technical stuff that I don't quite understand, but the gist that I get from it is that they're essentially combining a bunch of prices across multiple exchanges.
Yeah.
And so all these exchanges are being averaged. So I really hope that this kind of thing becomes pervasive, because the idea that a single institution and an exchange is basically the forefront and the means by which the price of Bitcoin for basically everybody is determined. That single point of failure, it goes against the Bitcoin principles, kind of the whole operation of that. But so I would hope that a lot of these, that maybe because BitPay did this temporarily, so I hope it becomes something permanent, because I think that'll be very beneficial, because it's something like that has a ton of volume that is very, very popular, like Mt. Gox has some kind of hacker, they go down. I mean, if they are the means by which we're all priced, then that's a lot of negative publicity. But if you're kind of obfuscating all these things by combining prices across multiple exchanges, you got a much more stable price for this volatility.
Wouldn't this be an interesting world? So your commodities people, so what essentially what it is it's BitPay. BitPay is now doing this 3 exchange averaging, right?
Yep.
And so Wouldn't it be interesting? BitPay is obviously the leader right now in merchant payment systems, in point of sale systems. Coinbase is there too, but BitPay is really pulling ahead here and really doing a bang up job at that too. I've signed up as a business with BitPay and I've looked at some of their features and they've got some great stuff. Wouldn't it be interesting? Maybe this is never gonna. No, this would never be the case. Never mind. I was gonna say, wouldn't it be interesting if eventually the price was set by BitPay itself, based on what everybody was just sort of spending Bitcoins at, and it just sort of, the system just sort of set its own price based on transactions actually happening with Bitcoin, but that's not how commodity. That's not how it's never going to work like that. I say good for BitPay. Time to get off the Gox sauce.
Yeah, a lot of people need to do that because this whole Gox thing is stupid because they're obviously going down in a very, very light flames, but it doesn't look good for them. So that'll be a ton of negative publicity because we're still, everybody's still focused on the Gox. Like that's what everything is priced in. If everything is priced in across multiple exchanges, everything's much more stable. There's less volatility. And there's much less meat for all the mainstream media to go after, just freaking out with these crashes or any kind of exploit on these sites.
So speaking of different exchanges, I want to tell you a couple that I've been checking out recently. There's two that I like. I think one is a little more U.S. centric than the other, and they've been kind of not holding up to the traffic as people are moving over. Gox is now down to like 79% market share, which is great, right? It's been dropping there. Even the other day, they had a file system error on I guess their one Linux box, and they were down for a while because they had to do a file system check.
Oh.
But during that day, they dropped to 50% of the market share. So that was good. But so I want to tell you about the two that I've been playing with lately. The one that I think is a little more international focused and very clean too, I really like the look of it, is BitStamp, bitstamp.net. And they have a really nice UI. They have an order book that is a little basic, but if you know how to read order books, it's just all right there. You can see all of the asks and you can see the, the bids just in a little long list. Kind of gives you an idea of the depth and what people are willing to pay for stuff. Different funding options that you might expect. Like if you go over here to the funding area, they'll take wire transfers and stuff like that. Of course, now I'm flashing my login ID on the page. The other one I want to talk about though is CampBX. And campbx.com. This is the one that's been a little slower under the load. I think they're U.S. based. I think they work for anybody, but they're kind of their big selling point is they're U.S. based, and they also promote sort of an instant Dwolla transfer method. I don't know how it works. You probably have to have money in your Dwolla account, but if you do, they supposedly allow you to instantly fund with Dwolla, which I know is an old method you used to use, Drew.
Yeah, back in the day.
Yeah,
back in the day. They've
also got money orders and personal checks.
They give you a couple different options.
You have to have a verified account, but you can use personal checks.
Yeah, once you verify, they give you a lot more options and a lot more flexibility.
I
almost went with them, but
you can take out via Dwolla. You can withdraw via Dwolla. You can withdraw via ACH transfer, domestic wire, or even a USPS money order. It's a pretty big fee on that one, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And you can pay with money orders, which is really cool. So you don't have to associate your bank account with them.
Oh, yes. That is cool.
Just go buy money on her, boom, smack it over there. Hey.
That didn't click with me. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. So CampBX is it's supposedly they say they say that their front end is maybe a little slow, but their back end trading engine is isolated and wicked fast. They say and it doesn't have any problem holding up. I haven't used it a ton yet. I actually haven't bought anything on either one of these. I've just set up accounts and I'm in the process of getting my accounts verified and all that kind of stuff. I'm trying to break the Gox habit.
Let's all break that together.
Let's do it. In fact, hold on. You know what I'm going to do right now, Drew? Hold on. Stand by. I'm going to make it official on the video version of the Plan B show.
Mm-hmm.
Our price will no longer come from Mt. Gox. We just talked about CampBX. I'm going to set it to CampBX. Boom. Hold on. Bam. We're now at CampBX price. No, it's a little cheaper. Let's see what... Well, that's all right. It's okay. Let's see. On BitStamp. BitStamp is... Yeah, we'll go with BitStamp. BitStamp is $98. There you go, Drew. We're no longer going by the Mt. Gox price on the Plan B ticker.
Somebody's got to take a stand.
We're taking a stand. That's right. We're being bold. And then I also thought I'd talk about a couple of Android apps because a lot of Android apps are using the Gox price. And I got a couple on my phone. They're cool. I admit it. I installed a couple this week for you guys, so that way I could tell you which ones I like the most. In fact, the first one is probably my least favorite of the bunch. I like how I say I tried all these, and then I'll tell you the ones that way you don't have to. But let me tell you about the worst one first. And it's not even that bad. It's just compared to the other one. So it's called compared to the other ones. It's kind of not the previous UI, but it's called Bitcoin exchange rate mining. And it's a combo. You can check on the state of your miner, but it also pulls in the order books for all the different exchanges. It really gets all of them. It even gets Ripple price in there and all that kind of stuff. So I like that, so I can monitor all of the exchanges. Of course, it pulls in GOX, but it also pulls in all the different currencies, gives you their 1 day, 7 day, and 30 day in one screen, so you can be on the go and try to make your important decisions. And then, of course, you can check on the status of your miner, and it gives you graph charts on your overall hash rate and stuff like that. Not a bad one. I think it was free, too.
It's cool to have all in one like that.
Yeah. If you're a miner, that's probably the one I recommend. But see, I'm not mining anymore, so I was... Not until I get my Butterfly Labs, whenever that ships. Then there's another two that I got, and all these will be linked in the show notes for you guys. Let's see. It's called Bitcoin Alerts. And can you guess what Bitcoin Alerts does, Drew?
It alerts you about something related to Bitcoin?
Yeah, it does. And there's two in here. One only does GOX, so I'll just cover that one really quickly because it has a very nice UI, probably one of the best UIs I've ever seen on a Bitcoin app, and it lets you set the price you want to be alerted at when it's at a certain price point, when it goes below a certain price point, and when there's just a certain movement in a direction.
I've woken up in the middle of the night to make some trades, at random by looking at the price on my little tablet. That's pretty cool.
Well, what's nice, a little alarm, right? What's nice is you can tell it not to wake you up in the middle of the night. You can say during the day, alert me, and you can set different tones for different price events and stuff like that. And, it's got a very clean UI to it, but it only right now follows the GOX price. It also is going to have a fee associated with it, but they're also planning to introduce a lot more features. So this one could be one to watch because I think they're going to introduce a lot more stuff. The other one I like, and it's free, but there's a upgrade version, Bitcoin 24/7. And this one is maybe not as pretty as Bitcoin Alert, but Bitcoin 24/7 is kind of the same thing, and it puts a price always up in your alert messages bar, your notifications bar, so you can always get the price in there. And if you buy the upgraded version, which is 99 cents, it pulls in from BTCE, all of them. It'll even get the Bitcoin over-the-counter IRC trading price.
Oh, nice. I have to get one of these.
Yeah, and this will also do the same thing where it'll give you an alert at a ceiling price or a floor price. I think this one's, you can get, if you want to just go by the GOX price, you can get it for free. If you want to enable the other exchanges and like the Bitcoin OTC, you have to pay the 99 cents. See, these are 3 Android apps that give you widgets. And what's cool too is I think Bitcoin 24/7, you can have every exchange as a widget. So you can have a GOX widget, you can have a CAMPBX widget, a BitStamp widget, so you can look at all the different prices right from one Android screen. So on my Android device, I just have an entire screen dedicated to everything Bitcoin. So I just flip over. I have like the top Bitcoin stories, the prices, my Bitcoin apps, everything that I need to do, any kind of Bitcoin related stuff, all in one screen. And these kind of complement that.
Cool. Yeah. I just installed this right now.
Down with the GOX monopoly, I say. So this is my favorite one. So I'm going to link that in the chat room right now for you guys watching live if you want to go grab that one. And since it's free, it's an easy buy. So yeah, there you go. There's to get your Bitcoin on the go. Now it's time for the big story. Actually, I'm kind of surprised we didn't start with this. We didn't lead with this. The Bitcoin Foundation has received a cease and desist from California. Now, what's funny about this is Bitcoin. This is really the Bitcoin Foundation. First of all, doesn't really operate out of California. They operate, I believe, they're licensed out of Seattle. Directly following last month's Bitcoin 2013 conference event in San Jose, California, that, by the way, brought some revenue into the state of California. California's Department of Finance decided to issue a cease and desist warning to the conference organizer, Bitcoin Foundation, for allegedly engaging in the business of money transmission without a license or without proper authorization. What's interesting as well, Drew, is recently the state of Illinois also issued a cease and desist letter to mobile payments processor Square for failing to provide proper licensing in accordance with the state's Transmitter of Money Act. The prepaid card provider NetSpend and 6 other payment companies also received Illinois' case cease and desist orders. If this practice grows among states, it could have a potentially significant chilling effect on the financial services innovation, especially upon lawful business that are designing infrastructure to support Bitcoin technology. What a bunch of horse crap.
Yeah, why? I don't understand. Like, they weren't very specific in the article about what exactly California is upset with them for doing. Is because they were sponsoring an event where people were using ATMs and exchanging currencies like this?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking because they were an enabler and they were going to say, you set up an event, people came in, they transmitted that money.
Oh, come on!
I think that's what it is. And what's funny is outside of maybe that, the Bitcoin Foundation. Really, I mean, they hold Bitcoins to use for, donating purposes and using to spend them, but they don't transmit them. They're not an exchange.
Yeah, they're not. I don't see what they're transmitting.
And I wonder, so I think part of this is you have these FinCEN regulations that came down that said treat these people as money transmitters. And you got to wonder if cash-strapped states look at this and go, boom, we got ourselves a moneymaker. It's like giving people tickets on the highway. It's like a revenue generator, and they need the money, and the system is designed to do this. In fact, people have tried to lobby to get this money transmitter licensing. Think about it. You got to have licenses in like 47 or maybe it's all of the states. You got to have individual licenses. You can spend up to $10 million just getting licensed.
Yeah, I'm sure that's in no way, a convenience for the already established banking institutions.
Right, and the government's making a nice penny off of that, so they have no incentive to change it. And the state of California is going to be able to make some money off this, and they're hard up. And of course, they get to stomp on the new guy who's a disruptor. And oh man, it is so frustrating to watch this kind of stuff over and over again with new technologies that comes up. I swear, every new technology that we have watched, from the internet to Linux and open source in general to now to Bitcoin, the established industry attacks it in these most ridiculous ways instead of just learning how to work with it.
Yeah, they're not interested in people improving the standard of living or creating jobs or
of course
creating revenue or increasing efficiency or doing anything beneficial to society.
Here's what the letter said to them. He says, come to our attention that the commissioner it's come to the attention of the commissioner that the Bitcoin Foundation may have engaged in the business of money transmission without having obtained the license and proper authorization required by California Financial Code. You are hereby warned to cease and desist from conducting the business of money transmission in the state. Wow. This is tax dollars at work here, Drew.
Cease and desist because they may be transmitting money? Wouldn't that be awesome if you could just make people stop doing anything and threaten them with violence for possibly doing something?
Bitcoin Foundation's like, girl, I'm not even in California. What's your problem? Right?
Oh, crazy.
Crazy, girl.
I guess they'll just have none of these conferences in California then. Yeah, screw them.
Well, this is not... So, I mean, remember how California has the Silicon Valley and it's supposed to be sort of the heart of tech innovation in the United States, and how there's a lot of VCs in California that are currently working on Bitcoin infrastructure software?
Uh-huh.
I mean, is California this stupid?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I left. Yeah. I lived there for my whole life. I got the hell out of there. They're going down.
I mean, if anybody had a legit case to go after them, and not that this is legit on anyway, but if anybody did, it would have been the state of Washington, where I live, because that's where the Bitcoin Foundation is registered.
Yeah, they're doing whatever they can to try to stifle any of this innovation anywhere.
So you don't think we're being like fanboys when we say that? Because I got to tell you, we've kind of gotten some pushback. People said, no, you guys are overreacting. So here's what I got. By the way, people have been using the hell out of BitMessage to contact me. I should set up a BitMessage. I don't have one yet. I'll set up a BitMessage address for this show soon. I think in fact, Drew, if you want to play with it, I think I figured out a way. So I think we can create a broadcast. So BitMessage they're just like the Bitcoin addresses, and we can subscribe to a broadcast one where both you and I would get the correspondence. They send it to one BitMessage address, but we'd both get it.
It's like a DL then.
A DO? No, what?
DL, distribution list.
Yeah, DL, yeah. So that's kind of cool. Anyways, I've been getting a few bit messages from fans of this show, and they were kind of giving me a hard time because we were overreacting. They said, okay, you guys really over the top on this thing. It's not that banks are... Here's what the general consensus I would boil it down to is. It's not that the banks are attacking Bitcoin. It's that there is a remote possibility that Bitcoin can be used... Well, not remote, but there's a possibility that Bitcoin can be used for money laundering. And they don't even want to have to worry about it. They don't want to be bothered by it. It's too much hassle for them, and so they just shut it down.
I don't buy that. I mean, they accept risk to incur value. They accept risk to make a profit. So
yeah, that's kind of how like the whole loan business works and all of that, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it's a risky thing. People are going to do some nefarious stuff.
Oh, I should have thought of that when I wrote them back. I had a crappy response compared to because that very nicely puts it as risk is kind of their business. It's just a balance. Maybe that's the point. Is risk is their business, but it's balancing that risk, and maybe they feel that the risk is too high. I think that's crap. I think they're actually threatened.
Yeah, I don't think they're just trying to avert risk. I think there's something maybe not very significant. Maybe it's not like a very overt, but there's some funny business going on in the background where I think maybe some guys up top are perhaps a little worried about what this might do to their moneymaker, their multi-billion-dollar corporation, on all their jobs. They might just live to in a tiny degree a bit of fear as a result of all this.
And maybe. I guess I look at the summation of today's episode. And you say, there's this sort of, these different banks are working together to shut down funding methods to the different Bitcoin exchanges, primarily Gox. And you have to ask yourself, like, is it worth playing the game? Is it worth joining the system? Or is Bitcoin's true hope to be this alternative currency that is completely outside the system? And I think so far, everybody thinks, no, in order for Bitcoin to be successful, it's got to be integrated in with the system. It's got to be easy to move money in and out of it. But
and people say it has to be regulated. What's that mean? It has to be regulated.
Well, it has to be regulated in order for it to work in the business environment. Because businesses won't trust it unless it's regulated, because it needs to be predictable and there needs to be rules around it. Maybe this isn't the purpose for Bitcoin. Maybe we keep fiat currency for paying our taxes. And see, the problem is Bitcoin's true potential is if we can use it for, that's its real social change, is if we can use it as a society sort of universally.
Yeah.
Maybe it's too soon for that.
I guess it is. It's just so. Who knows? There's no way they're going to give up, their monopoly on the dollar, at least, or any of these fiat currencies, government-sponsored stuff. So it'll have to operate in the background. I don't like the idea of trying to join, trying to enter that system. Get all. I understand that they have to get licenses for legal reasons and all this crap, but we're just playing it. Everybody's playing this game. It's so stupid. It's so frustrating that why can't people just exchange something for something? Mm-hmm. Why do you have to get a license in each state and then operate under federal rules and then do like international stuff and then banking regulations? Like what? Why can't I just exchange with you?
Mm-hmm.
That'd be nice.
And we'll see where it goes. One last note: we have a link to this if you're a Mac user and you've been getting into encryption. There's a really, really great software package out there called GPG Tools, which integrates in with the Mac Mail program. And they just started accepting Bitcoin donations. So if you're a Mac user and want to get your encryption on, we have a link to that in the show notes, and maybe send them a couple of Satoshis to thank them. Because, shoot, now's the time. And with the NSA Prism stuff and all that, it's like, now's the time for BitMessage, Bitcoin, and GPG. I'm all about that these days. Let's wrap up, Drew, with a little Litecoin news.
Oh, yeah.
A little Litecoin talk. One of my complaints about Litecoin, one of the things that kind of made me stop mining, was that we hadn't seen any action in the actual development community for a little while. Well, that's all changing today. Litecoin 0.6.9.2-final is out. Came out June 25th, and it also includes a new lower fee setting. You have to go in and turn that on, but that's good. So they're lowering the fee there. It's up on GitHub right now, and binaries are available for Linux, Mac OS X, and Windows. And don't forget, after you download the 0692 version, you have to manually configure to be able to use the new transaction.
So you have to add like a config file to point it to certain things, right?
Yeah, I think they have a GUI option to set it.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, it's in there. You gotta go get that. So yay, Litecoin seeing some activity in the development. That's awesome. And then also, speaking of our Gox, in that announcement Gox had where they're having some troubles, they also addressed Litecoin. They said, yeah, we're still working on it. We're still working on Litecoin. This was via Reddit. They were clarifying some inaccurate speculation in the comments, and they said, as risky as it is to invoke the name of Litecoin, we must apologize for not keeping everyone up to date. The fact is, the current situation means continued delay, but for good reasons. We're looking at July right now, though that depends on a few things. Mainly, we want to do it correctly from the beginning. And you can kind of see every time Mt. Gox mentions Litecoin, there's a big bump in the activity.
Yeah, they still got that name recognition. Hopefully they can boost the price once they start using Litecoin. That'd be nice. Now I'm liking Gox. I love Gox. Let's switch right back to Gox.
Right. Well, yeah. I wonder if Litecoin price will go up a ton, or if sort of the speculation is going to be built in now that they've announced this, and there won't be maybe a huge price because the price people buy on the rumor and sell on the news.
There's so little activity in the exchange of it. Like the bid and ask orders they're so small. Like there's such a huge spread in the whole Litecoin thing. So I don't know. Maybe they will. I hope it goes up and I hope it sustains. But I would bet that once all this stuff kind of culminates, it'll probably jump right back down as it had when they first announced the news. Because when they first announced it, it went from less than $1 to like $3, and then up to $6.
Yeah,
now it went back down to $3. Once all that settled down. So I think there's probably going to be some similar speculation over there, but maybe as they lose their market share, it's going to be lessened. So I don't know. I don't think it's going to be quite as big of a jump as we had seen in the past when they first started talking about how they're going to implement it.
Come on, Drew needs to get Litecoin rich.
I know. Come on, let me cash out. I want to be done. I've been staring at the prices for Litecoins for months and stuff. It's like, come on, man. I just got to get out of here. I want to go back to Bitcoin, but.
So before we wrap up, what do you think? The price on BitStamp right now, $98. Gox price is $102. You think when we're recording from a week now, it's going to be over 110, or do you think we're about to start sliding?
I don't think we'll move for a while. I think it'll be around here for a little while.
I'm impressed. It's been as resilient as it has, to be honest. And
Very true.
I think scarcity plays a big part of that. I think it's going to be up. I'm bullish. I think it's going to be up. I hope so, because I bought it at 99.
I bought it at 108. So.
Well, I did that too. Back. I bought it at 107. I think it was at 107 or 106, but only a couple. I only buy a couple at a time.
True.
So it's a little safer that way. All right, Drew. Well, I think we're going to wrap it up. I don't know if we have much else to cover in this week's episode. A ton of things that have been going on. Oh, there is one thing I wanted to mention. Drew has created a interview suggestion submission form that we're embedding in the show notes over starting since last episode. And if you just scroll through the show notes, you'll find a little spot for you to give a name, the person you think we should interview, and we're asking that you provide a method to contact, because anybody can suggest anybody's name, but if we don't have a method to get a hold of them, it's like shouting to the wind. So we'll have a little submission form. It's embedded in every single episode, and when you fill that out, it goes into a spreadsheet that Drew and I are watching, and then we'll draw from that for future interview suggestions. So if there's been somebody out there in the Bitcoin community that you want to hear from, or somebody who's working on a project you think is really awesome, that'd be a perfect name to toss in there, because we love talking with folks. We try to get somebody on every episode if we can.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. All right, everyone, will join us live Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. GMT over at jblive.tv and jblive.info for the audio version. Links to my social profiles and Drew's social profile over in the show notes as well. And links to all the other stuff we talked about. Don't forget to email us, planb@jupiterbroadcasting.com. Drew, man, have a great week.
Yeah, you too.
All right, everyone, thanks so much for tuning in this week's episode of Plan B. We'll see you right back here next week.